MC Lawler's building was the first building restored really in Rochester by private funds, okay? They restored it themselves. I'm trying to think of that lady's name. And it was the building to be demolished for surface parking. That broke their heart. They left town. I worked about 2 to 3 weeks on 20-foot scaffolding with concrete saws, sawing all of those components out of the building and saved all those components. And then years later, understanding the love that the Mankins had for the Kennedy building, and they bought this building here, they said, do you have any ideas to put a different face front on that? And I said, I believe so. And so that's where those pieces came from.
Yeah.
I'm glad that I did it, and it's a lovely addition to this street that used to be called Saloon Alley.
Yep.
Oh.
Because this street right here was filled with the tobacco factory,
Yep.
saloons over here,
Yep.
and then down at the end of the street, that's where the first Huey cigar store that was down here in the corner. And I'll just throw out some other things. And there was Greenway Co-op down there. But what was important was there were saloons all along Broadway, and it was next to the railroad tracks, and the railroad tracks brought men that needed to be serviced, and there were homes around here that women would engage with the men in the area of servicing and drinking and having tobacco.
Yeah.
And for what it's worth, I just will throw out that the Schuster family, they got one of their sons on the city council so that they could have the Main Street, because they were the largest employer of Rochester.
Yeah.
Okay, up until in the 20s was Schuster's Brewery.
Which was right over here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they got one of their sons on the city council so that they could have the Main Street tarred, because too many of their horse-drawn wagons hauling beer got stuck in the mud.
Yeah. There you go.
Is there a year on the Kennedy building?
It's what year do I have that?
I don't know. There might be a facade on it. I mean,
Okay, I was just curious.
It's in the 1800s.
1886,
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
But it did have a third floor, as Kevin had mentioned. Then it got burned down. They capped it off.
Yeah. And then John's building. This is John's building here, and that was the Williams building, right?
Right. F.W. Williams.
Yep. And Williams was the mayor of Rochester 3 times. So and he owned a machinery shop. I always envision him walking from the shop at the end of the day and walking right into the saloon and having a whiskey and a cigar, you know? That's the way it should have worked, right?
Hopefully he didn't cross the street down to the other homes.
No, I'm sure he didn't.
Yeah.
No politician ever would. But you know, if you go by John's building, he's got some great sayings there, and he's done a wonderful job preserving that. You know, he really has. This is the old City Hall, City of Rochester. It's one of the more prominent buildings in town, and it's a classic example of Art Deco, and it's a magnificent building. It's still got the original light fixtures that are here, and there's a man by the name of Jeff Allman and Associates, who, when the city vacated this, and this was at risk of being a parking lot or a parking ramp, took it upon himself with some other investors to retrofit this into, I don't know if it's condominiums now, but it's apartments. And I ran into them a couple weeks ago when I was down here just kind of walking around, and they've got full occupancy, and it's turned out to be a great thing, not only for Jeff and his investors, but more particularly for the city, because this is just, I can't imagine tearing down something like this. And yet that was in the city's plans, to be honest with you. Somebody asked about the brick that's down here, and I was told by City Public Works that as these bricks pop out, they're going to take them out and just at least patch them for right now, but eventually this is all going to be brick. And so they're going to redo all this, but they wanted to wait until it was as opposed to just patching a little bit here and a little bit there. Once all these bricks pop out, I don't know why they just don't take them out and do it, but that's what they're waiting for. So eventually that'll all be redone. I'm not going to stop in the throngs here, but the building next to this is the Stevens building. And it was built in 1917. It's now the Dirty Bookstore. But it was occupied by China Hall, and those of you who've walked around downtown, you'll notice the china that's actually recessed into the building. And it's something that sometimes people don't even realize, but it's an interesting little artifact. Next to it is the City Cafe, that at one time was just one floor, and then they added a second floor, and that was built by a guy named Mr. Holland and Newt. It was Holland's Market, and a guy named Ernest Holland started that in 1907. And then his son Newton in 1930 took it over and had a restaurant. And they had when I was a kid growing up, they had a cafeteria downstairs and the exact same cafeteria upstairs. They made the best roast beef sandwiches you could get in town. And important, the mayor, everybody seemed to be in there having coffee and a donut. It was just kind of a central place where a lot of people gathered. And Newt Holland was really instrumental in this community with the art center, and really started the first art center. There's a bust of him somewhere with his glasses, and there's a little marker over there that commemorates his contribution to the community. So he was an important person in town. And then we'll go right next to City Hall and Newt. There's another building where I think the City Market is in there now. That was the Commercial Club. And kind of the distinguishing feature there is this green tile roof. But it was really the start of the first Chamber of Commerce. That was the Commercial Club. And that's where they housed their offices. So we'll make our way down to the corner building, which is the old Massey building. Massey building. Here we go.
Did Pat Lund live in here at one time?
My brother did live in here for one brief shining.
You don't have a key, huh?
I never got a key.
A year.
Was he in there a year?
A year, yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I was talking to Bob Brown this morning about your sports career.
Oh, jeez.
You're quite a sports.
Well, that's what they say.
Football, basketball.
A little bit of everything. Yeah, here's the plaque to Mr. Holland, and
The bronze statue of Newt
where is it?
was stolen from the art center way back in the 70s.
And then they found it.
Oh, did they?
I've seen it.
I didn't know that.
I've seen it.
I'm glad to know it.
There's the plates. Stevens. We're not going in though, guys. Up there.